According to the Finnish constitution, we are a bilingual country. Because of that and because of another reason, I would like to start by some words in Swedish. I'm sorry, Penny. Som många vet här i Finland så brukar vi säga att Sverige är vår käraste fiende. Utan att säga något om förhållandet och relationen mellan Helsingfors och Stockholm så är det en speciell ära att också önska Anna König-Germur, borgmästare, finansborgarråd för Stockholm, välkommen till Helsingfors. Anna är ju inte bara borgmästare för Stockholm utan också ordförande för Eurocities som är ett samarbetsorganisation för de största städerna i hela Europa. Because being the host here, I can steal some of your time. I'd like to answer the question which was put to the deputy mayors a while ago, which I think has a quite close link to the SDGs. And the question was roughly, what are you most proud of concerning your own city? I think that I'm actually most proud of the fact that Helsinki is, you can say, a textbook example of a city of this size not actually having any really bad neighborhoods at all. And I really mean this, and compared to any city of the same size, I think the differences between neighborhoods in Helsinki are smaller than anywhere else. And that is a result of a very comprehensive approach, very holistic view, understanding that when we are talking about sustainable development goals, everything really needs to be sustainable from a ecological, a financial, economical, cultural, as well as a social point of view. Welcome, once again. We have discussed the role of cities quite a lot already. Casper, how do you see the role of the business sector?
First of all, of course, I have to say it's impressive to see what the cities are doing in New York and Helsinki. But I think we all agree that if we want to achieve the 2030 goals, we will not do it unless everybody is part of it. So I think in a way the private sector, the companies, the banks, we need to take our responsibility. There's no doubt. However good a job you do, we all need it, and even then it will be challenging. I think the good news, and it's an easy question to answer, because when you look at sustainability, it is not only the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. We've done a lot of assessments about companies, particularly that score high on ESG, environment, social, and governance responsibility. And there is a very strong correlation between ESG scoring and the volatility of earnings of these companies, and a very high correlation on actually return to shareholders, value. So it's actually not only the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. Actually, by doing the right thing, you actually create value, not only to society, but also to shareholders. So I think, and when people now know it, this will actually really accelerate as far as I see. So in that sense, I think this is, and that's why we all are taking now a lot of steps. Then of course you take a bank, running a bank, we do matter. I mean, I think we employ about 70 million people if you look at banks employing globally. So yes, looking at our own activity, we need to take responsibility, how we, in terms of our dwellings, in terms of our traveling and so on. But actually that's underlying in this big issue, peanuts. Our big impact will come, and is now actually what we are doing, is how we engage with our customers. If you take us as an example, one of the 130 large banks being regulated by the ECB, the 130 banks, we have assets of about 21 trillion. How we allocate those 21 trillion will have a huge impact. The choices we make in terms of interacting with individual clients, with SME clients, corporate clients, institutions, and cities is really where we make the very big impact, and that is really what we have started to do. We make an assessment now, the banking industry, on actually the carbon footprint, the ESG scoring, and actually start using that as a means of allocating, both in terms of investments, where this whole thing started, really investments already 10 years ago, where really the evidence comes that when you invest in sustainable companies, you make more money. But now we are doing it also in finance, which is the big, and in every interaction where we also advise companies. And then you can understand that the impact is big if we can, together with our customers, really kind of drive towards a more sustainable, better society overall. And if I say one more thing, which I think where we have a huge responsibility and we've taken steps, and now it's not Nordea, we as the private sector, is of course how we measure, because what we need is transparency. Mm-hmm. How do we account for these things? Because we all know that if we know the starting point, i.e. what is kind of our footprint, whatever we then measure, be it climate footprint or other, and then we can start measuring the steps and improvements we make. Then, of course, I think just by having that transparency, we will start driving enormous change. And we're not there yet. There's a lot of good initiatives. There is, of course, the Stability Board is actually having a task force on climate-related financial reporting, very big. It's coming a long way, but we're not there yet. We are, of course, part of that, but we're also part of something that is called A4S, Accounting for Sustainability, actually driven by Prince Charles. How do we actually account for that? And I think we are very close to some big corporates now report in this way. But once we have that, then we can actually see where we are. And then, of course, we will see the development and what impact we can have in actually changing. And I actually believe that this will, once it starts, it will really accelerate. We take this extremely seriously as a bank.
In addition to all what you already said, we have heard some rumors that actually Nordea is doing something really SDG-specific job. Could you?
That we have. I mean, we
about that?
Specifically on that, and I thank you for the question. It's nice to stand here in front of all of you. What we have done, and it's not only us, we are one of 28 banks that are now developing what we call the principle of responsible banking. They are actually aligned with the SDG targets. They are aligned with the Paris Agreement. And we launched this in Paris last September. And this is together with the UN. And we are one of the only Nordic bank, and we are really driving this. And it's not only commitments, because we are now the first, probably the only bank that is reporting according to these principles. And got just recently the acknowledgement from the UN that we are doing it. And others are now hopefully following, because again, then we start getting the real reporting from banks, but the real impact will be when we can get our clients really behind this, because then we can start moving this. So that is what we are doing. We also, of course, putting ESG. Today we make an ESG assessment on all the clients we invest in, but we also do it now in all the clients including the city of Helsinki, who we also lend money. Yeah. So we can actually make an assessment and take that into account when we make lending investment decisions, and then we start developing green loans, not only green bonds, but green loans. We have launched our first green mortgage, which I think is something where our customers can say a green mortgage is the right thing to take, and frankly, it's actually a cheaper one, etc. So this is now at the core of what we do. 5 years ago, it was a glossy brochure. Today, it has to be at the core of everything we do. So, very excited.
I think that we are all well understand that we need the cities on board and we need the business on board, but we also need the academia on board. How do you, Rector Jari Niemelä from the University of Helsinki, see the role of academia here?
Well, I think the role of academia is very, very important, because we have three basic core tasks. That's research, teaching, and societal interaction. So if we think of our research, for instance, we have lots of research on sustainability at the University of Helsinki here. And that research then provides better basis for decision-making, cities, for instance. So that's one clear effect of our activities. The second one is teaching. We educate experts in sustainability. Cities hopefully employ them, companies employ them, and so on. So this expertise flows further. And of course, the third thing is societal interaction and collaboration. So we have lots of collaboration, for instance, with the city of Helsinki. But I think we should have more. I was very impressed by the previous presentation about how you report. And I think there is a very good possibility for collaboration between the university and the city. I mean, the University of Helsinki is a community of 40,000 people, if you take the students and staff. So it's a huge operation. So the question is, how do you make that more sustainable, more responsible? And you have the same question. How do you make a big organization like a city more sustainable? And I should say that I was very impressed by your reporting. I should say that we have also reported, in a sense, because we entered the Times Higher Education ranking in sustainability. Times Higher Education is ranking universities based on their sustainability performance, based on the SDGs. And I can't tell you how well we are performing, but we are performing very, very well. But in an hour you will hear. Because there is an embargo now, I can't tell you, but 5 o'clock Finnish time, follow Twitter, Helsinki Uni, you will see how well we are doing.
That's great.
We still have lots of things to do, and I would very much like to continue collaboration with you and other universities, and of course, other cities as well. And I mean, if we have time, I have a question to you regarding your collaboration with cities in New York City. I mean, you have great universities, so how do you do that?
In a collaboration with banking.
Sure, sure.
In a presentation,
I just like to bring
we
you
are
to the US.
also right now preparing guidelines for responsible investment of our own funds. So that's exactly in line what you are doing.
in a presentation earlier on today, we heard that sometimes the problem is not that we don't have enough of data, but we don't have enough of understanding of how to use the data. How do you see the role of universities? Do you have a bigger role in providing us with appropriate data or a better understanding of how to utilize that data?
Well, in a sense, both. I mean, our task is research, so we produce data, understanding, expertise. But then it's also very, very important to collaborate with cities and companies to make sure that the data and the understanding is used in everyday life. So we don't just want to be sort of academics in our ivory tower and do the research and forget all about the society. We want to interact with the society. And we have very good collaboration with cities here in the Helsinki region. For instance, in urban research, the cities are funding postdoc positions at the universities, both us and the Aalto University here. So we have a very close collaboration, and as the cities are funding these positions, they are really interesting how the money is used.
In Finland, we sometimes used to say that the best way to go forward is to follow the good example of Sweden and at the same time avoiding their biggest mistakes. And I know that in Estonia you have a little bit of same attitude concerning Finland, that there are some strengths of the Finnish society, but also some weaknesses and something you should follow and something you shouldn't. From a Estonian point of view and from a Tallinn point of view, what are your first remarks concerning all of what you have heard here today?
Hello, and thanks for inviting me. I think the biggest, the greatest examples that I've heard today are, of course, from New York and Helsinki, because of the fact that there's so much people involved in achieving those goals. And I would really love if Estonia in general and our city Tallinn would do the same. Because I'm really sorry to say, but our public in our country isn't yet demanding the action on climate change, because people think that it's not a big problem yet, because we have a lot of forests still, and after our latest election, parliamentary election, we now have Fridays for Future strikes too, because we had a very big majority of votes at the elections won by the climate skeptic parties. So now the youngsters are coming out on every Friday and demanding.
Great.
So I think Greta Thunberg is a really like great example for everybody, and we should take action faster. So right now there's only ones who demanding the action are the youngsters and our small Green Party in Estonia. So there's a lot to do.
You talked a lot about Estonia and maybe trying to say that the Estonian government is maybe not taking the lead as they should. How about the city of Tallinn? Maybe, how do you see the role of the city?
The role of the city, of course, is huge. I have been with the city for a little bit more than a year now, and right away we started with the green politics and taking action in most of the energy supplies. Like all of our housing and our heating is coming from renewables. But what is our problem is, the biggest problem is traffic, because we have a lot of traffic in Tallinn, as you may know. But what we did, we joined the pesticide-free towns. From 1st of October, there will be no single plastic cups used anymore anywhere in Tallinn. And we have a really good waste management. That is, we're actually leading. Our waste management system is better than in the whole of the country. So there's a lot of things that Estonia should take example from our city.
Penny, we have heard so much about your relation to your federal government. I think whenever you meet any American, you can't avoid the issue. I think the best single answer I have never got was when I visited Seattle some months ago, and I asked the mayor there, how was your relation to the federal government? And she told me it's really easy and simple, we sue them. So let's not talk about the federal government in the US.
We don't say that in New York.
But then you also have some good friends there. And I think that UN is one of those. So
Yes.
Let me put it this way. You have now collaborated with the United Nations already for a while, also concerning SDGs and the VLRs.
Yes.
Do you see it has already, and if, in how has it changed the way how United Nations sees the role of cities?
Absolutely. I have to first congratulate all of the Finnish in the room for, especially those in government, for the fact that you are the happiest people in the world. That is actually a really phenomenal thing. You ranked #1 on a UN report around rating governments or people by their level of happiness. And I had the honor of participating at the launch at the UN about 2 weeks ago. And the thing that I think is so important about that report is the fact that it directly correlates government policy to the experience that citizens have with their lives, right? And that, it just spoke to your opening remarks, that just speaks to the fact of the policies that are being implemented both here in Helsinki and throughout the country. So congratulations to everyone on that. So, you know, the UN recognized early on when they agreed to the Sustainable Development Goals the importance of everybody, the private sector. There's a UN Global Compact of cities, of youth. What we have experienced in New York City as host city is that when I came in and they agreed to the 2030 agenda, we were building out this program around Global Vision Urban Action. We had already mapped our One NYC. We just had to map it to the SDGs and see where we had synergies and then create this platform for best practices. What the Trump administration did was really carve out an opportunity in the US in particular to showcase how progressive policies around climate and migration can really be led at the local authority level. I think that is something that most people don't really appreciate about American politics, is that they, you know, historically in the U.S., conservatives have been really able to use local authority to undermine social movements like reproductive rights or LGBT rights. And so this is a very powerful moment, I think, for Americans in particular, to showcase the energy we can drive around these sustainable development goals. At the same time, the UN has recognized the importance of cities and created an opening for our voice. So I think the Global Compact on Migration is a perfect example. The U.S. government didn't participate in that compact. So we reached out to our colleagues at the UN and said we'd like to lead a coalition of global cities, because at the end of the day, we're not making the decisions related to the visas that they entering our country, but we have to deal with the reality of what happens when these new neighbors show up in terms of how they interact with law enforcement, etc. And the two co-facilitators, Switzerland and Mexico, actually gave us a seat at the negotiation table, and they listened to what we had to say. And this is that entry point over the last 2 years where you just see cities showing up in conversations more. And I think this embracing and the reality that the majority of the world's population are in our cities. And this is not to discount or put us in a competitive place with rural areas. That also is embraced and very much listened to. But we as cities have really, I think, established a strong argument as to why we need to be at the table on all of these issues with the private sector, with academia, with youth. And that has just been something we're also just taking advantage of. And the voluntary local review, you know, this really came from brainstorming, what do we do around global vision, urban action, this program we have around localizing the SDGs, recognizing that the US government wasn't going to submit a voluntary national review, talking to our relationships and, you know, the people we know at the UN, and recognizing that they'd be interested in this. This is only, you know, when you asked about the role of academia, we're still figuring out what our partnerships should look like, because this whole concept is 8 months old. It's not even a year old. I mean, this is how new this movement is. And in this short period of time, we have seen so much energy and so much power around city voices, around global goals at the UN.
You know, Finland is ranked #1 in several international rankings. My two favorite ones is, the first one is that we are the happiest nation in the world, because no one in Finland believes that.
I have learned that over the last 2.5 days.
And the
I
other
want to
one
still celebrate it.
That we were ranked #1 in a comparison some years ago to be the least failed country in the world.
The least what?
Least failed country in the world. And I think it tells a lot about the Finnish mentality, that we are most proud of something where we are least something. Which reminds me of the strategy of the city of Helsinki, where we have a sentence where we say that Helsinki aims to be or is a city with several strengths and few weaknesses. And actually, I think that we are quite well aware of our strengths, especially in marketing purposes, but maybe not that aware of our biggest weaknesses. Where do you think we have more to do? Where should our aim be concerning all the SDGs? Should we, is the ultimate goal to find out where is our biggest weakness in order to really make a difference?
Yes, I think that's a great question, and something that we struggled with New York City when we were putting together our voluntary local review. You know, as Sana Marie said, this is not an extraordinary amount of work that we have added on to our team in New York. We were already reporting on progress in all of our indicators related to sustainability and a host of issues around addressing inequity in New York City. We were reporting on that progress every year because as a progressive government, what we wanted to do was ensure that we were being transparent. We had big goals for New Yorkers, and we wanted our New Yorkers to know how we were seeking to achieve those goals and where we were at every year. And so in that translation process, one of the conversations that came up was, we are not doing good on, 2 or 3 of the SDGs that we wrote about last year. And we realized this is a perfect opportunity to be very clear about that and use that as a platform to be able to showcase this is where we're working. New York City is also very good at marketing, what we're good at. But this is also where the challenges are, and this is the whole point of this exercise, is how do we improve on what we're already doing and using this common framework and language to exchange ideas beyond borders. That really is. In my remarks, I mentioned that New York City is as large, if not larger than 141 countries, but we're not just the island of Manhattan. When you look throughout the 5 boroughs, we have real structural inequities that we are working very hard to address, but this also means that we need to show up with the humility when we travel around the world or when we welcome our counterparts from around the world, wherever they're from, in learning from them and never thinking that we are too good or we are too far along in our development, that we can't learn and improve what we're already doing. So that, to me, is really at the heart of what this VLR exercise is.
Making global responsibility real will certainly require some sacrifices from all of us. And that also means that impacting people's behavior is one of the keys to success. Any good stories you could share on behavioral change? Goes to anyone?
Well, I could
Jari?
quickly say that in the academic world, there's lots of interest towards sustainability and towards research teaching in sustainability. And after the IPCC report last autumn, I started to get emails from students and staff. What is the University of Helsinki doing in order to support the sustainability, SDGs and so on? And my answer is that we have established a Sustainability Research Institute. We have employed 11 professors, another 11 postdocs to work on sustainability issues and teach. And half of the postdocs are funded by the cities, so there's good collaboration with the cities. So that's really a huge interest and demand, both from the academic side and also from the society. We need understanding, we need experts. So that's, I think that there is a momentum. And as you said, we are still in the beginning of the road, but there is good momentum right now.
How about you, Susan?
The best things about this green revolution, I think one of the best things I've seen in past few years is that people acknowledge that we need our food system should be more sustainable, and a lot of people are starting thinking and acting on how and what do they eat. When it concerns to meat industry, then veganism is really popular in Estonia, and again, a lot of young people are taking the lead in it. So I would like to see that all of our universities, schools and kindergartens and so on would give the example to the private sector and put the vegan menus everywhere.
Do you know that we have a group of really well-known vegan restaurants in Helsinki?
Yeah, I know that you are really good in it.
Casper?
Maybe on the same note on vegan, or maybe on a lighter note, but if you take 4 activities that we all can kind of do less of or shift. One is that if you shorten your morning shower by 2 minutes, you save a little bit. If you reduce your annual kind of traveling by 1 international flight, then you take the train instead of the car for your commuting. And then on the vegan, you eat meat only once a week. Then you actually save a certain amount of carbon footprint. Here comes kind of the financial kind of dimension to it. You can save 27 times more if you shift your pension into a sustainable fund. So it just shows the different way. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't take a shorter shower, you shouldn't eat less meat, but by doing just shifting your pension savings to a sustainable fund, 27 times more saving. So you can do all of them, but it also shows that you, through your savings and the decisions you make in finance, you will shift the carbon footprint in a very dramatic way if you do it in the right way.
And if you are walking or cycling to your job, you are not only making a favor for the climate, but also for your own health.
That is correct, yes.
Let's finish with a very concrete question, because I think that's what actually then matters, to do some real. What is the most impressive action for climate change prevention you have witnessed in the past years? One.
I'm going to jump in and just say, and this is actually connected to the previous comment, and this is government policy. Something very, people wouldn't think about, but the regulation around how air conditioners are used by businesses in New York City. If you 2 years ago came to New York City and walked through Times Square, all of the major retail stores have their doors open and cold air is blasting out. That is incredibly energy inefficient, and we passed citywide regulation that required, and they would get fined if the doors aren't shut. But these are the little behavioral nudges that policy can kickstart. So I think government policy, and that was one. I actually noticed that sign, and businesses put a sign that says, "We are required to keep the door shut. Please close the door on your way out." But these are the little movements. But in a city like New York, that is an incredible saving on energy.
Probably many. I mean, I would. Maybe not the most impressive, but I would urge everybody to look into it. It's, I think, a Finnish initiative, but it should be global. It's compensate. I'm not going into what it is, but it is about how you can compensate either on the individual level or every level on your carbon footprint, really about carbon capture. Very, very exciting to me, at least, and you should all look into it. Kind of free advertising for compensate. But I will probably give my vote to this global youth climate strike. That was actually something that, my vote goes there.
He won the one.
Yeah, I have to agree. I have to agree because it's the largest movement ever, I think, and it has a major impact on everybody's lives, and especially when you see children fighting for their future, and we as adults are actually responsible for all this crisis. So yeah, we need to look deep into the children's eyes and do the right thing, and how you said, not only the right thing, but
smart thing.
Smart thing. Yeah.
The final word got to.
Well, I fully agree, and I think that's really the big change recently, that young people, children, students have really become concerned and interested in these issues. And you can really see it now in Finland as we have the elections coming in 2 weeks' time, how it has sort of changed the discussion among politicians and the candidates and so on. It's really having a big impact. So I hope that it will last and really make a difference in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, representing a smaller city, a bigger city, the business and academia. We really have hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love your hat. I need to get one.
Thank you. Thank you, Casper von Koskull, Zuzu, Izmailova. Now you have to teach me, how do you pronounce your name? Zuzu?
Actually, my name is Züleyxa.
Züleyxa?
But my friends call me Zuzu.
Zuzu, yes.
Yeah.
Züleyxa?
So we have to be friends from now.
Yeah, sorry. We are, actually. And your last name, Izmailova?
Yes.
Izmailova?
Yeah.
Thank you a lot. And Penny Abeywardena. And Jari Niemelä, thank you. And let's give a big applause to Greta Thunberg. And if somebody is not following her on Twitter or Instagram, please do that and help her to make her voice heard even further. But now, Helsinki Symposium on päättymässä. Jan Vapaavuori, mitä olet oppinut tänään?
Olen oppinut, kaupungit kiinnostaa. Täällä on ollut paljon väkeä, suurin osa jaksanut loppuun saakka. Täällä on ollut hyvä, tiivis tunnelma. Mä oon oppinut, kaupungit on itsessään ekoteko. Tai itse asiassa mä ehkä tiesin sen jo entuudestaan, mutta mä sain nyt parempia argumentteja tälle. Ja ylipäänsä sen, että kuinka tämmöinen kokonaisvaltainen lähestymistapa on tärkeää. Mutta ennen kaikkea mä oon niin innostunut lisää kaikesta siitä, mitä me ollaan tekemässä täällä. Kannattaa käydä New Yorkissa ja kannattaa seurata New Yorkin jalanjälkiä. Se johtaa hienoihin asioihin.
Kyllä, ja se mikä on ollut jotenkin kantava teema tänään on yhteistyö. Sitä tehdään monella tasolla ja sitä lisätään, ja se on hirveän hienoa. Kohta on eduskuntavaalit. Mitä erityisesti toivot tulevilta kansanedustajilta, jos ajatellaan ilmastonmuutosta ja kaupunkien asemaa taistelussa sitä vastaan?
Me ollaan paljon puhuttu tästä kaupunkien kesken. Täällä on edelleen useita mun kollegoja paikalla isoimmista suomalaisista kaupungeista, ja 21 isoimman kaupungin yhteistuotoksena julkistettiin hallitusohjelmatavoitteita, jossa se lähtökohta on se, että me uskotaan, että se keskustelu, jota tälle vaalikaudella on käyty, niin johtaa siihen, että riippumatta vaalituloksesta seuraava hallitus tulee ottaa kaupungit ja kaupunkipolitiikan vakavammin. Ja sitten me yritettiin miettiä, että mitä se sitten olisi ja antaa heille jotain osviittaa. Ja ehkä se, mitä me halutaan sanoa, on se, että kaupunkipolitiikan syvin olemus ei ole se, että kuinka paljon rahaa tuodaan mihinkin ja mitä hankkeita viedään eteenpäin, vaan se pitäisi miettiä vähän syvällisemmin. Me löydettiin siihen 3 keskeistä tulokulmaa. Ensimmäinen on se, että kaupungeilla pitää säilyttää laaja toimivalta. Me ollaan tekemisissä maailman kaikkein vaikeimpien kysymysten, ilmastonmuutoksen, segregaation vastaisen taistelun kanssa. Ja tehokas työ edellyttää useiden eri politiikkaosalohkojen niin saumatonta yhteistyötä. Me puhutaan sosiaali- ja terveyspolitiikasta, koulutuksesta, kotouttamisesta, nuorisotyöstä, kaavoituksesta, asuntopolitiikasta. Eli että säilyttäkää laaja toimivalta kaupungeilla, jotta me voidaan tehdä sitä työtä, missä me ollaan parhaimpia. Toinen huomio on se, että tästä huolimatta me tarvitaan myös ja halutaan suoraa, aitoa kumppanuutta valtion kanssa. Me ollaan viime kädessä samassa veneessä. Niin kuin sanottu, meillä on vain yksi planeetta. Valtiolla on siinä keskeinen rooli, kaupungilla on keskeinen rooli, mutta että lopputulos on varmasti parempi, jos me tehdään sitä kumppanuudessa ja yhdessä sen sijaan, että sitten jokainen häsää omiaan ja kilpailee keskenään. Ja kolmas huomio on se, että kaupungit on sitten kuitenkin erilaisia. Jopa meidän niin kuin 21 suurimman kaupungin keskuudessa me olemme yksimielisiä siitä, että me olemme erilaisia. Ja että jos yritetään tämmöistä one size fits all ajattelutapaa, niin se ei oikeastaan hyödytä yhtään näistä kaupungeista. Se ei ole Mikkelin etu, eikä se ole Helsingin etu, jos yritetään tehdä jotain keskivertokaupunkipolitiikkaa, vaan ymmärtää, että ne ratkaisut, mitä haetaan, se todellisuus on jopa niin kuin meidän isompien kaupunkien keskuudessa kovin erilaista. Eli toivoisin ehkä tämmöistä niin filosofisempaa tulokulmaa niin sen ymmärtämiseen, mitä kaupungit ovat, mitä niiden kasvu tarkoittaa, ja sitten semmoista niin kumppanuusajattelua sen sijaan, että kilpaillaan siitä, että kuka antaa eniten rahaa, koska sitä rahaa nyt ei kuitenkaan hirveästi ole.
Helsingin uuden strategian ensimmäinen osa on julkaistu. Oletko toiveikas tulevaisuuden suhteen?
Strategia julkaistiin aikaa sitten, mutta nyt julkaistiin tämä meidän VLR. Mitäköhän se on muuten suomeksi? Onko sillä Sanna-Mari suomalaista nimeä? Vapaaehtoinen kaupunkitasoinen raportointi YK kestävän kehityksen periaatteesta. Joo. Kyllä mä oon toiveikas ja yksin se, että tänne on tullut niin paljon niin arvovaltaista, niin asioista perillä olevaa, asiaan vihkiytynyttä hyvää väkeä tänään ja käynyt tätä keskustelua meidän kanssa. Mahtavia ulkomaisia vieraita, paljon suomalaisia kaupunginjohtajia, rehtoreita, yritysjohtajia, erilaisten edunvalvontaorganisaatioiden edustajia ja kuunnellut tätä, niin se antaa toivoa. Nämä on asioita, jotka kiinnostaa ja on toivoa, että muutakin kuin globaali nuoriso ymmärtää näiden asioiden merkitys. Ja sitten tietenkin, kun nyt toi sotekin tuossa pääsi kaatumaan, niin onhan tässä toivoa.
Kiitoksia Jan Vapaavuori.